Hey, Kate.
Hello.
Hey, how are you? Everything
Um,
okay with the power and everything?
yes, my dad actually works for the power company, and I was unaware there was a scheduled power outage for today.
Oh my God.
They do those sometimes to just check lines and things like that, and they have to have everything down so the guys that are checking everything don't get hurt. So I was like, please tell me it's not the time of my interview.
Well, I'm glad it worked out. No worries on this end. So, as long as everything's okay there.
Everything's great, and thank you so much. I do apologize for the inconvenience.
Yeah, no worries. No worries at all. So, just to give you a little background, one of the main reasons we do these interviews is for new musicians who, they could be starting out brand new, even at playing an instrument, but generally just people who are just getting their start and learning about the industry, kind of shaping what they want to do, and are looking to people like you, who have far advanced and have some accomplishments and made some connections and doing things in the industry. So that's kind of where the nature of a lot of these questions come from. And I think it'll be fantastic. So
Absolutely. And I'm honored. I really appreciate you asking me to come on. And, I support all of the things that you said that those people that it reaches and stuff, because we have all been there,
yeah.
that's where we all launch from. So anything I can do to help and, hopefully I can share some things that inspire and help people grow into whatever it is they're trying to do.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks. Well, with that, I'll just go ahead and get started. I want to take it back all the way to the beginning. Like what was it that made you start playing, or singing? And what was it that the difference between I think I want to do that to now I'm doing it.
So I started very young. I don't actually play any instruments. It's something that I'm currently in the process of learning. It did not come natural to me. So I have to really put a lot of effort in that area. I struggle with singing and the hand coordination at the same time. So, and I want to apologize before we get too far into things. I had some intense shows this weekend, so I'm a little hoarse. So I do apologize for my voice. Um,
Um,
but I started very young. I did my first talent show when I was 5 years old. So literally my whole life, I can't remember a point before that, obviously. And so my whole life I've sang. And so it came down as a family thing for me. My mom sang, my grandma sings, my great grandma sings. So it's kind of just a passed down thing in my case. Um, After that, I sang in school talent shows and we sang in church and things like that. And then when I was 14, I started doing charity events in my community. So kind of progressed into doing more of your like theater type stuff and went that route for a while. And I would enter any local talent show, any charity thing that I could, and sing at those to karaoke music because I didn't have a band at that time. So I would do YouTube soundtracks because they're free and I was 14. I had no
yeah.
so I bought this little karaoke machine that came with the mic, like the mic was included, a couple $100. Probably mowed some lawns to get it. I can't remember exactly how I wound up getting it, but got that and did that. Went and did that for years throughout my high school time. And then in my early 20s, I had an incredible opportunity to go and record some songs with Scotty Hawkins in South Carolina. Scotty was Reba McEntire's drummer. And
Wow.
so I got connected with him through a mutual person that we both know. And that was probably the shift for me.
Mm,
That was when I decided, obviously I'm not going to waste his time if this is just a hobby for me and I'm not going to waste my time. Um, and that's when I sat my parents down and asked them if that was something that they would support me in because it does require a team most of the time. It's very
mm,
hard to make it in this industry on your own. Um, people do it. So I don't discourage, if you have no one, still go for it. I've been very fortunate that my family's been able to support me throughout my entire journey. And my mom and dad were totally on board. So I went to South Carolina and recorded an EP with Scotty and several other musicians that were touring musicians for everybody from the Marshall Tucker Band to Randy Travis.
Wow.
Yeah, so he introduced me to all those people, and was kind of a domino effect. After that EP dropped, I started opening for other artists that were bigger than I was, like Eric Pasley and Tyler Farr, Trick Pony, Brooks and Dunn, things like that. Yeah.
Wow.
So that all came from that one connection. So it's really, when they say it is who you know, it is in a sense, but you really want to make sure, like for me, Scotty was a friend. It wasn't just like, I didn't look at him as a well, this is just a stepping stone. It was never that type of relationship. It was everybody that I meet become friends. So I would try to approach it in that way. And I would recommend, if you're going into this, don't just look at these people as connections. These people, they help you, and they help you grow and develop, and they become your friends. So I would approach it in more of that way, and just be grateful that they've came into your life.
Yes, certainly. Oh, that's fantastic advice. Wonderful.
But yeah, it just progressed from there. I took off for a long time because I had a little girl. I was married at the time. It's difficult, to be away from your children. So I decided to stay home for a long time. 7 years is how long
Wow. Wow.
I came
Good for you.
out of everything. And then 2.5 years ago, I got divorced. I sat my family down to tell them that I wanted to pursue this, full force, hit the ground running again. Because I've made friendships instead of contacts, I still had a good relationship with everyone that I had met in my 20s. So I called everyone that I knew up. Scotty, unfortunately, had passed away, but everyone else I was able to call and tell them that I was, back in it and really going to go for it, and sat my daughter down, made sure she was okay with the time mom would be away. I have 2 little girls now.
Wow.
So my mom does not work. So fortunately, she's able to watch the girls and then also bring them along, so that there's not a lot of time that I don't have to be with them. So it's really a balance, and it's a wonderful balance. I have a very good family, very good support system, and it just kind of all fell back into place. I literally picked up 7 years later where I left off.
Isn't that amazing? And I mean, that's a testament to, your character, that you can call all those same people, and you're absolutely right about creating those friendships, that these people still wanted to do business with you 7 years later. There's a lot to say about who you are, and that those people, still wanted to do that. So that's amazing. That's
Thank
great.
you. I live my life by the motto of, you can always be a better person today than you were yesterday. We all go through things that we didn't like about ourselves. And, I went through a spell where I hosted a podcast on self-love and my journey to self-love and becoming a better person and self-growth and things like that. So I definitely take that 100% and apply that in this career as well, because, you should apply to your whole life.
Absolutely. You'll have to send me a link to that, and I'll include it in the description for this.
Thank you.
That's so awesome.
It's been
So do you
beautiful.
find yourself on the road a lot then now?
Oh, yes. So I actually was doing my calculator, or not my calculator, I'm sorry, my calendar earlier with my band, trying to schedule rehearsals. And we saw that I'm actually only home in West Virginia this month, 7 days.
Oh my gosh.
So that's it. So
Wow.
I'll be home. Today is one of those days. And then I leave tomorrow by train. I take a train to Washington, D.C., and then I fly to New York for a couple days. And then I'll be home 4 days before I head to Nashville and start production on my new songs. So these will be the first fully produced songs that I have had out in 7 years.
Holy cow.
I'm
Congratulations.
like super excited.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I imagine you're working with some of those same people from
Well,
last.
and my manager I have known the entire time. So my manager is still a contact or a friendship that I have from previously. But everyone else is new on my team. So I actually signed several months ago with PCG Universal, and that is owned by Bernard Porter. And for those of you who don't know, Bernard Porter was instrumental in Jason Aldean's signing to Broken Bow Records.
Wow.
He has close relationships with him and several other artists that are on mainstream country radio now. And it's a funny story. My mom had actually met him doing like a Star Search type show when she was in her early 20s, and I was with her when she met him. So I was 8 years old when I first met him, and then all this time of no, you know, connection there. And then his company calls and wants to interview me to possibly sign me under an artist development deal 4 months ago. And I was like, funny story, you actually have met me before. You just don't realize.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that wild?
I know, I tell him the story, and he was like, I remember that, and I remember your mom. And so it was a beautiful turn of events, and I say it's divine intervention, you know.
Yes.
So
A
that was
million
really
percent.
cool. And I have nothing but good things to say about that company. They've really done a lot for me. And I definitely would recommend, if you do get offered. Obviously, there's a lot of sharks out there, so you would want to be careful, do your research. But if you do get the opportunity to sign under an artist development deal like I got offered, with a company you can trust and people that are truly there to help you and support you and do what they promise they're going to do, that might be something that you really want to look into. It's been very beneficial to me and my career.
That's amazing. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So, how long has it been since you signed?
It's been about 4 months now.
Wow, so
So
fresh.
yep. So we're
Oh,
already going into production. We're going to produce 4 songs. I'm working with some veteran songwriters. I'm a songwriter as well. I dived into that around 2 years ago, but really hard. I hit it hard the last year. So I usually write at least a song a day or try to get an idea down every single day. Um, you know, carry your notepad with you, carry your ink pen with you, write those. You get them anywhere. I've literally pulled ideas from street signs.
oh. That's fantastic.
So, but that company, through the company, I was able to connect with some really amazing songwriters, and Britton Cameron and Kim McLean are their names. So we have 4 songs we're going to be putting out that I co-wrote with each of them. And
Wow.
Britton and I hit it off so well that he's also a producer. So I chose him to be my producer for the album, for the singles.
Wow. That's great.
I'm super excited.
Yeah, I can tell. I'm excited for you. I mean, that's
Thank
amazing.
you.
So awesome. So, can you talk a little bit about, so when had first of all, had any other labels reached out to you at that point?
I had a couple of like the development companies and a couple independent labels reach out,
Mm-hmm.
um, where I don't have a lot, and I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that they, reached out to me and considered me at all. They weren't. I gut check everything, if that makes sense. Like
Sure.
I can really see if that's the right path for me,
Mm-hmm.
and it just didn't feel in alignment with the ones that reached out. Not that they wouldn't for other people, it just wasn't for me.
Sure.
Um, and I also wanted to go through this process of taking time to learn a lot of things. I'm learning a lot about the industry and things that maybe not so much about being on stage and singing, but more of the behind the scenes things, because I really wanted a full circle knowledge base before I go into this further. So having this artist development deal and really putting my resources there instead of just on the singing all the time has I feel that it's been very beneficial. And now I'm 100% sure, with no doubt, that this is exactly what I want to do. So I would definitely recommend to study about the entire industry and all of that before you just leap in and say, well, I like to sing, so I'm going to like it all, because that's definitely not all there is to it.
Good point. Absolutely. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun. I don't really view it, I get tired and things like that. I don't really view it as work, like,
Mhm.
for example, I was a mail handler for the Postal Service for 2 years. uh,
Mhm.
during my time off. That was work.
Mhm.
you got to get up on Monday and, drag your feet in and drag your feet out. This is more of, I'm so excited. Like this weekend, I had work, but, I love it. So it doesn't have that same feeling. So I'm
Mhm.
very grateful for that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so, the label that you ended up with, how did they find you? And kind of, can you talk a little bit about that conversation? That, hey, we discovered you this way, and we're interested in working with you.
So I actually am independent right now. So
Oh,
I chose to not go with the ones that reached out.
okay,
Yep.
okay,
So I'm just under management and artist development deals at this time.
gotcha. Okay, 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 that
Yeah.
makes sense.
So
So it'd be the manager, I guess. Who is the guy who you said knew your mother?
that's Bernard Porter. So that's the guy that owns the company that I have the artist development deal with,
Artist
that
development.
signed Jason Aldean in his beginnings.
Got it. Okay, so that's the company I was speaking of. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that.
No worries, no worries.
Let's talk about the artist development company.
Mm.
So yeah, can you talk a little bit about that conversation when they discovered you, and how they did and how that conversation went?
Absolutely. They discovered me on Instagram. So I had posted several videos, and they had came by them somehow, just through Instagram. And the digital marketer, Will, he reached out to me and told me that they had seen one of my videos. They liked the sound of my voice and wanted to know if I would be interested in setting up a Zoom to discuss if there were further possibilities that I may want to be interested in. And if they wanted to go further with me, they kind of wanted to see what I was like and give me an opportunity to see what they were like. So we scheduled a Zoom for, gosh, it had to have been within 3 days of that message. I was in Nashville when I got that message. So I had to come home, to get prepared for that meeting. Then we hopped on a Zoom call. It was an hour Zoom call. And I saw Bernard's name in the link and realized that my mom had met him in her 20s and had actually, done a talent show where he was a judge at the time. And also he had scheduled a meeting with her. She's a songwriter. So he had scheduled a meeting with her to come down and discuss some songwriting things when she was in her early 20s. So when I realized that, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, double checked it all with my mom. It was really him. And then we set everything up through my manager as well, so he could join us on the call. And my manager knew him as well. They did work together in radio when they were very first in their first part of their careers. So it was just a serendipity of events there for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep. So I get on the call and tell him, hey, you've actually met me before. He remembers it all. And we go through all of that. That was super cool. And they tell us what their company's about. And they talk about where I'm balanced in my career, showing from social media standpoints, and where I'm unbalanced, and
Hmm.
what they would like to do to get that more of a level balance and then bring it all up together instead of this, So
Wow.
we talked about some things like that. And then, they decided that I would be a good fit, and they offered me a deal. And we told them, we would want to think about it. And they were like, absolutely, of course. So a couple of days of going back and forth on the deal. And then when it got to where everybody was completely happy with the way that we wanted it, we signed. And I
Wow.
was super excited about the whole thing.
That's
It's
amazing.
one of those moments
Congrats.
where you have the pen in your hand and you're like,
Yeah. Yeah. Like, this is happening. This is happening. Wow. Oh, that's beautiful. Wow. And so, when you're working with them, obviously, so you talked about social media. Are you able to elaborate about the, balance, unbalance? Can you go into that stuff, or is that more proprietary information? You
Well,
know?
I can touch on it for sure.
Okay.
Social media is such a huge component in your career nowadays. You really want to make sure that you're reaching a lot of audience on there.
Mhm.
So, the people that follow you and everybody going on there, that if they see you live, it's very important that they also go on and, like follow you on social media, because that's just stuff that's looked at now. All the platforms from TikTok to Facebook to Instagram are all important. So mine at the time that I signed were considered low, my followers.
Okay.
I didn't know that that was really something that was looked at a lot in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I didn't put a lot of time there other than just making normal posts. I didn't see when was the best time to post throughout the day, or what day got the most activity, or that was just not something that I had ever been introduced to even know to look at. So
Wow.
they kind of showed me some things like that, and how to grow those platforms to reflect higher numbers, and try to get more followers. So now at my shows, I have a floor poster that stands up. It's about 7 feet tall, and it has one of those QR scan codes on it, and it will take people directly to my social media. So I've seen a drastic increase of followers just from that, and taking that to my shows, and letting it be accessible that easily to everybody that's there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is such a great idea for anybody who's performing live. You
Yeah.
know, so going into that, what types of shows or what types of venues are you performing at now, and kind of maybe we'll talk a little bit about those changes, and how you've graduated from different venues to other places. So, kind of, yeah, go ahead.
Like where I started as opposed to where I am now.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So I started more in your like cafes and things like that, doing a lot of acoustic sets mostly. And
Mm-hmm.
now I've graduated. I have a 4-piece band. I make the fifth member. And we do, like, for our North Dakota, we're doing a run in North Dakota in November, and it's casino based and some things like that.
Yeah.
This summer we were opening acts for headliners. So I've opened this summer for Low Cash, Easton Corbin, Drew Parker, um, Little Texas, a lot of acts that are headlining a lot of tours. So that's where it is as opposed to before. And some of that is reflective of the social media growth. And then also having a band that backs me now fully, obviously you'll need that to progress into those larger shows. And being with this company, this company's really opened a lot of doors for me as far as booking agencies and things like that. So when the word gets out,
And it opens up.
the domino effect for other things. So that's really progressed drastically over the last year.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I was going to ask if, so you're working with this artist development company, but it would make sense that they are contributing to growth in other areas as far as like booking and, things like that. So does that, did you have other agencies reach out to you, or were you connected with other agencies before you signed this artist development deal?
Both. So they just give you the tools, like the company that I'm with needed to let me know how to do get an EPK together. So that's an electronic press kit. And that's really important because it gives booking agencies and other buyers an opportunity to see what you have and what you can bring to their venue. So they walked me through and taught me, some things to be able to have that available. And then the booking agencies, some of them I have contact with from my early 20s, and some of them are new. So
Got it.
yeah,
Okay.
it's a nice, beautiful little mixture.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's amazing. And let's talk just a little bit about your personal experience changing these shows, going from cafes to, playing in front of thousands of people, I'm sure, and just the difference in your preparation, in your psyche, your physiology, how that changes your nerves, those kinds of things. That's a big change, and to um, there's a lot of stress factors, I guess, when you're going out in front of a big crowd like that. So, and now you have 4-piece band, so you have all these other pieces, moving pieces and variables. So can you just talk a little bit about that and just your personal approach and, keeping yourself healthy?
Oh, for sure. And you're so right. It is such a big difference, and when I first was transitioning, I didn't realize what a difference physically, and emotionally and all of that kind of stuff. So one of the first things I got into, because it felt a little stressful in the beginning, just because it was the unknown for me. I was learning all these new things, and and I take my career very, very seriously. So, and I feel that I have a responsibility to the people that are trying to help me as well, and to myself. So I put all of myself into it. And I started to feel a little stressed in the beginning, transitioning over from what I had done for so long. I mean, you're talking years and years
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
of a certain type of show and things like that, with just a handful of full band shows under my belt. So diet, I had to change my diet completely. I'm almost completely keto based now.
Wow.
Yeah. So I do very low carbs, high protein, very, very low sugar. Uh,
Mm.
and that has resulted in, quite a bit of weight loss, but in a very healthy way. I don't, I didn't do it to lose weight per se. I did it
Mhm.
for the energy and the stamina that it would provide me. I do exercise. So I do a program called Kinergy. I do that every single day. It's based around a lot of like yoga and also meditation,
Mhm.
or prayer. However, they have
Mhm.
the Christian based meditation or the guided meditation versions. Whatever floats your boat is what
Mhm.
I recommend you getting into. I love guided meditation. It keeps me calm and focused. And when I feel overwhelmed, it brings me back to recenter and balance, everything. So I do that every single morning. And I also am a big fan of what's called focus wheels. So I'll write out the things I need to focus on that week instead of things I need to be focusing on 2 months from now. That way I don't feel overwhelmed and I can keep it a little more compartmentalized. So,
That's awesome.
so focus wheels, meditation, diet, um, and make sure you get enough sleep. Try to get as much sleep as you can where you can. It's kind of hard when you're on the road. So you almost really, like in my schedule, I have blocked out when I'm going to take a nap, and follow that. Instead of going, shopping or something like that while you're in these really cool towns, I have to really lay down and take a nap.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're
Yes.
putting out so much energy
Yeah.
at night.
Yeah, it is. So I use Google Calendar to keep me on everything.
Mm.
My schedule is pretty tight. My rehearsals and everything are scheduled around, we have to work around 4 other people. So once you add those in along with my travel, it can be quite overwhelming. So I recommend you keep a calendar with you at all times to make sure that you're accommodating your team, because you have to remember they are also going through the same process. This is new for my band members. So I work with them very consistently on, okay, when are you available? When is a good time for you? And I give them several options. I'm available, instead of just saying, well, we have to meet this Saturday at 11 a.m. So I recommend having several options available. That way your team knows that you care about them, you're grateful for them, and that you also respect that they have a life outside of outside of the career that you guys are doing as well.
Sure. 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 Oh man, that all makes really a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
That's some things I do. I'd say my biggest things that I would really implement are the meditation to help keep centered and focused. That helps with stress. And then the diet, of course, and exercise.
Mhm. Mhm. And then going into starting to do some of these big shows, like what was it nerve wracking for you? The first few times. I mean, how was it opening for some of these big artists for the first time and things like that?
Well, I always get like I don't really, it's just some nerves. Like it
Mm.
kind of feels like butterflies, I guess is how you can say it. I get very excited. I'm a pretty joyful human being. So I just kind of am like, oh my gosh, it's so freaking cool that we're gonna get to do this today, that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
we always take a minute before we go on, and everybody just takes a deep breath. And I tell my guys, thank you so much for being here with me. Let's go rock out on the stage. We're going to have a blast. Don't get nervous if you mess up. It is what it is. Just keep
Mhm.
going. So I try to not make a big deal. I mean, we're human,
Yeah.
that's what we've chose to do with our lives. And we're there to share that moment of stress-free, no worries, live in the moment and just let that music let us be a vessel for the music to come through to share
Mm,
with you for that hour that you're, there to see us. So that's the mentality that we keep during the performance. And that kind of keeps the stress off because they know that they're not going to get scolded. I'm not going to scold them when they come off stage if they've accidentally, and that doesn't really happen. They don't really miss anything. But I think just adding that blanket around them, around everybody
mm,
on your team, and then they add that to me. If I've got up there and missed my words, they would never be like, you ruined that show or anything.
mm.
There would never be anything like that. So
Yeah.
that's kind of our mentality of going on stage,
Hmm.
out there and have fun and share that energy in that moment with your audience in the most joyful, positive way that you can.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Really.
We
That's awesome.
love it. I mean, we
Yeah.
really do have a blast.
I'm sure. Oh
These
my
shows
God.
we just did. I got to go to Hershey, Pennsylvania, this weekend. We had some shows in Grantville and Harrisburg, PA.
Mm,
And it was super cool. It was like it was at this big saloon and they do a lot of line dancing there. And they're actually very well known for their line dancing. And I walked in, and anyone that knows me knows I'm a huge Kenny Chesney fan. His
mm,
music just brings a lot of peace to me, and I just really appreciate his art and all that he puts out.
mm.
And there's a picture of him on the wall that he had performed there when he was getting his start. And it was so like, I could not believe I was getting ready to walk on the same stage that he had been on.
Yes.
And so I told the owner, I was thinking, I always take time, and I think everybody should do this. Thank the people that had you there and that invited you to their venue. There's a million people that they can choose from. Tell them thank you that they picked you.
Mm,
That's so important. I just feel like you should just really be grateful for them to take the time out to listen to your stuff and decide, that they wanted to bring you there. Even if you're getting paid, still, they could have paid somebody else, like, you know.
yes.
So
Great words. Yes.
we take time, to thank the owner, and super nice guy. And he hung my picture up right beside Kenny Chesney's. And that was so, so cool. But the preparation for that show was a little different because, you want to check out your venue and you want to see what they're doing. Like, for instance, this place was specifically for line dancing, mostly. So we wanted to make sure our tempo to our songs were custom to be able to fit so that they could stay on the dance floor the majority of the time. So we shifted our sets around to be a little bit more of what they could line dance to. And,
Mm,
and it worked out really well. They were able to stay on the floor the majority of the time. So I recommend doing that if you're at that level to where you're going to these specific places. See if they are something like a line dancing place or what they may prefer, and kind of tailor your set to the people that are coming to hear you.
that's beautiful. Yes. Yes.
That's what we did. And it was so cool because they were on the floor the whole time, beautiful dancing. And, you don't always get to see that. So it's super cool to look out and see 100 people doing a beautiful line dance in front of you. Uh, I mean, I got entertained while I was entertaining. So it was just beautiful.
Oh, that's fantastic. I saw that post actually on your Instagram with the Kenny Chesney one. So I'm glad you gave me the background because
Oh, yeah.
so cool that you were such a big fan of his. And then now you're like, oh, I get to be on that stage. Like, oh, that's so
I
awesome.
know. I take my mom with me. Like, my mom came with me this weekend and she ran my merch table. And I was like, out of all the performers, Kenny Chesney.
Yeah. It could have been anyone. That's so awesome.
Cool.
And that's so absolutely true about thanking the venue. What great advice, that, just to not only give them that gratitude, but also like that establishes such a genuine connection with them, and again shows them your character, shows them who you are, not just that you're a good performer, but that you genuinely care, about their experience too.
Yeah,
You
for sure. I
know,
mean,
that's beautiful.
and I think that I think that needs to be carried in, whether you're singing or songwriting or you're the booking agent or you're going into any line of work in any industry. I just think you need to be grateful for anybody that comes around and into your life. And are you going to run into unpleasant experiences? Yes, you're going to. Not everybody feels that way, and that's fine. That's fine. That's their journey and that's their path, but don't let it disrupt your journey and your path. You know, it's all about being a solution to the problem and not adding to the problem.
Mm,
So,
amen. Yeah.
just take that with you. That's what I do, you know.
Mm, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Now, in my 20s, I did not feel this way. Let me just, I
Yeah.
feel, and I like to say that because, you know, it does take, I think, a lot of time to put into self growth and a self awareness to um, develop the way you feel about certain things, and not for everyone. I'm sure a lot of people come to it a lot easier than others, and I'll be the first to say, the girl I was when I was 21 was pretty selfish and took a lot of things for granted. And that's the biggest thing. When I got back into this, I had done a lot of work to myself. So I wanted to make sure that none of those old traits that I had, came back out in any way whatsoever, that those were completely healed and that I'd grown up from being
Mm,
that way. So even if you're young and you don't feel that you're there yet, I'm 32 years old. I feel that I'm still young, but I've also
yeah.
had two children. I've went through I was married 11 years and went through a divorce. I've had some things happen in my life,
Mhm,
that not everybody has experienced, but that doesn't matter. Still
mhm.
take that time to invest in yourself and try to be the best person you are so that everything can be more beautiful on your journey.
Yeah. Yes. That's yes. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to ask a few more questions if that's all right, if you
Oh,
have
you're good.
time.
Yeah, 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 you're good.
So just going back to what you were talking about starting off, and being in your 20s and I was thinking about that initial meeting with Scotty, and he brings you down to South Carolina and you record these songs, and at that time you had decided, okay, this is something I'm serious about and I want to take seriously. Can we just talk a little bit about, that initial meeting with him, through your mutual connection, and then, how things started to develop? I know that you said that, you met a lot of people and there were some connections. Can we just go into that a little bit? Like in those initial, you recorded this thing with Scotty, and then, how did things start to grow from there? And who did you start to meet? And, what were some of the bigger things that took place early on, that were really helpful to you, or some of those people?
Right. So Scotty, we hit it off right off the bat. I took my mom with me. I want to say I was right at 21 when that
Mm,
first happened, when I first met him. And he and his wife, Tangela, who I'm still close with, they came out, and I want to say maybe there was like a dinner or something. There were so many things that happened, and I got COVID and it messed my memory up. Like, it was something along the lines of that. Um, and we went down, and I specifically remember us going into the studio pretty quickly to get some songs because I had no music available. Like there was nothing people could hear. And he was like, this is the importance. So he lined up several of he pulled some favors for me. And I'll
wow.
never forget it. He sat me down and he said um, that I sounded like Trisha Yearwood and Faith Hill had had a baby. Like that was the way I sounded to him, my voice. And he said with a dash of Stevie Nicks, and I was like, I'll take it.
Heck yeah.
Thank you. So he really loved my voice and thought it was unique. So he decided he wanted to work with me on that level. And then when we all realized that we clicked so well, there was a beautiful friendship developed there. And he just kind of, it was a domino effect from there. We recorded the album. He introduced me to Tim Lauder and Ronald Radford, who were, musicians. Ronald had played for Randy Travis, and Tim had been with the Marshall Tucker Band for years. Um,
Mm,
I suddenly had a band, and
wow.
because of their credibility, I was able to really grow from that. And because of Scotty's credibility and him pulling me around to his shows and places he had already had established relationships with, it
Mm,
it was him taking me around and introducing me to his friendships that he had made to all his people. So it kind of dominoed effect from there. And
mm,
I like to say I was like grandfathered in, you know what I
mm.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
so those contacts, all those people and relationships and friendships that I made really started with him. And also was fortunate enough to Vic Gabani, who was the audio engineer for the Grand Ole Opry and Bradley's Barn for all of his life, took interest in me. He's from my hometown. So I had Scotty introducing me to all these musicians, and then I had Vic introducing me to lawyers and other people in the industry.
Mm,
So I really had two balls moving at very fast forward momentum,
mm.
um, with a lot of people that could help me in a lot of ways. So I've
Uh,
just been very, very blessed in that way. And they were all wonderful people. And, like I said, I still talk to Vic, and Vic's still alive and I still talk to him. And, I keep in contact with all of them here and there. It's not
Sure.
constant contact, but I do touch base with them and things like that. And
Mhm.
it just snowballed. It snowballed from that.
That's just amazing. That's so wonderful. Wow. And then this might be our last question. We might get into more after this, but I wanted to ask about your influences, whether family or outside your family, with friends, and then just musically, what you like to listen to, and kind of where you go on that path as far as who influences you, and what you like to listen to.
Well, my mom, she sings. So I grew up watching her sing karaoke in the garage and things like that. So she's probably my first and biggest influence.
Mm,
Uh, just that remembering her do that, that stands out the most to
mm,
me.
mhm.
And growing up, she's from the 80s. So I grew up listening to a lot of Tina Turner, a lot of Bon Jovi and Fleetwood Mac, Michael Jackson, the list goes on forever. All the great, Queen, like I could go on forever.
Yeah.
Um, so I grew up with more of that influence. And then, I was born in 1990. So when I was younger, a lot of Shania Twain was coming out, Faith Hill was coming out, Trisha Yearwood, a lot of these artists. So on the country side of things, she would pull from those artists and Winona Judd and people like that. So I heard a lot of those types of sounds growing up, and that kind of all got balled together. And I don't really know how to explain how it happened. I pull those influences from everyone from Shania and Winona, to Stevie Nicks and Tina Turner, and then my grandma. I was close with my grandma, who was always listening to Etta James and a lot of your blues artists. So I pull from those as well. So there's really not one specific genre that I personally pull from. It's quite vast. Um,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that so much, that my mom was so open to so many different genres, because it really gave me a lot of room to explore, to see where I would want to go. And when I decided to get back into music, my manager, he sat me down and he was like, where do you want to go with this? Where does your heart feel the most comfortable? And do you feel, because we'll go wherever you want to go, whether it be country music or blues or jazz, wherever. But for me, it's more of your country music, your southern rock, your country blues based type sound. But you know definitely get you a manager that lets you make your own decision there, because that was cool, and that gave me an opportunity to really sit down and decide where I wanted to take my music, what kind of artist did I want to be and put out there. um, as far as what I listen to, it's all over the place. I listen to everything from My Chemical Romance
Yeah.
to Kenny Chesney to Kelsey Ballerini. I love her. I think she's super fun. And Carly Pierce, a lot of there's beautiful artists, female artists and male, in the music industry right now for country music. Um, Lainey Wilson's coming up the charts, and I love her voice. I mean, I branch into Jelly Roll and all Post
Yeah.
Malone, you know, and then I pull from the 80s still, I still have on the way to my shows this weekend. There's not one Bon Jovi song I did not sing on the way up. So,
Yes.
you know, still rocking out some Led Zeppelin and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's pretty vast all the way around, to be completely honest. But I like it that way.
Yes.
People would get into my Spotify and be like, how many people control this Spotify? This can't be one girl.
That's awesome. Well, and I think that's the beauty of where the industry is. A lot of people talk about, so many issues with the industry, but I think one of the beautiful things about where the music industry is now is the access that we have to so many different styles of music right at our fingertips, and artists who may not be well known all the way up to popular artists or artists who have been around for generations. And I think that's such a gift that we get that access, that it can look like there's 10 different people controlling your Spotify,
Yes.
whereas, years ago, it wouldn't have been like that. We wouldn't,
Right.
that all that music just wasn't available. So
I
that's,
think it's a beautiful thing, and you hear a lot of different opinions and things like that. But honestly, for me, it boils down to, are they following their heart and being a vessel for the music in the way that they feel that they need to be? And if so, then it's beautiful.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be your cup of tea. If that's
Mhm.
it's someone's, and that's all that matters, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful that everybody has an opportunity to share who they are and how they feel in a musical way so easily, on so many different platforms. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, are there any final thoughts that you might have for somebody who are getting started? I think we're pretty close to the end of the interview here, and I just, I'm so thankful for you taking the time out of your day, to meet with me, and
Absolutely.
I found you on Instagram too, and I was just like, yo, I want to interview her so bad. So
Thank
I'm
you.
so glad you responded. That was such a gift, for us, that you responded and were open to doing the interview. So really, thank you.
It's my pleasure, truly. I really appreciate you reaching out and taking your time to interview me. I really do appreciate it. And I hope that whoever tunes in, gets something from this and it can help you along your musical process. I'm on Instagram. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My handle's Kate Boytek. Um, I just think that as long as you're staying true to yourself, that's the biggest piece of advice I would give. If you feel yourself shifting to a more honest version of yourself through your music, don't ever be scared to go there, because evidently someone needs to hear what you have to say in that way. So just kind of let that flow. Don't put up any blocks or, anything like that. And, I know they say you don't, I'm not saying you don't have to change who you are for the industry, but be open to change if it feels right. There's a very healthy boundary there.
Mm-hmm.
You'll grow. Um, and I just think that everybody needs to stay true to their self and let that flow out. It'll come out how it needs to.
Yes, awesome, beautiful words from Kate Boytek, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, and I hope you stay in touch. I'm looking forward to hearing your new record. Do you have a release date yet?
We are looking right now. So we're going to drop a single first. It's called
Okay.
Hell or High Water. It's very upbeat. I'm super pumped about it. I co-wrote it with Britton Cameron. Um, we are looking at October for now. So
Okay.
as long as nothing, happens, the release date is set for October. And then, if there would be any changes or delays to that, I would post it on my social media. But as of now, we can look for some new music in October.
Yes. Awesome. Well, really looking forward to it. And
You.
thanks again. And please, yeah, stay in touch. Give us the updates, and we'll do the same.
I will for sure. You have a beautiful day. Thank you so much again.
You too. Take care.
Goodbye.